This video is intended to describe a lightblade talisman named Loveshine. Joining me today shall be my whimsical stick figure chakra map, to which I will utilize quite diligently during this dissertation for various chakra stimulation nodal points based on the crystalline output configuration of this vast little talisman of a lightblade spectrum. So first things first, the most prudent aspect to discuss would be the blade band scaffolding, seen like so, going up here laterally, up the side here, and lateral once again to this apex band, which vaguely resembles a figure eight to be the governing recirculation of the energy, thereby basically providing a containment field of recirculation of this entire complex of little device. So which is developed, of course, to run in perpetual sequential recirculation momentum. Starting off with the transmutation ratio, seen laterally like so, has a sequence of smoky quartz and hematite offset all the way laterally like so, up the side, this lateral band and down this side right here, to be its own quadrant of the transmutation ratio. Starting off with hematite being a fantastic iron-based mineral that successfully grounds all excessive stray radial energies through the root chakra into the earth stars, into the earth for reprocessing, in tandem with smoky quartz providing the same energetic stimuli function to further provide stronger composting of energy by taking excessive high radial energies firmly wrote to the root into the earth stars, into the earth for reprocessing. Hence, the two together have been deemed the transmutation ratio to serve as a very encouraging grounding bypass or etheric dialysis through constant reprocessing into the earth for clarification of energy and, quite simply, transmutation of negativity into positivity by high dialysis configuration into the earth at a very quick ratio. And that, of course, serves a distinct purpose of being a very fantastic way to ensure purification of the auric field, and also be quite the important contingency to further tangibilize the entire divine love wavelength output of higher vibratory crystals to provide a firm contact patch into the earth to make the magic real, quite simply. So the transmutation ratio is always quite essential in virtually every construct for that distinct purpose, has quite the staple part of any design. Then at the apex band, so to give preface, this is a very intensively pink ray focused high heart activation. So this right here is actually developed to be a bit of an antithesis to be very, very viable for practical action with these extreme high vibratory loving vibrations in play when worn and wielded as a talisman. Starting off with Tiger's Eye down here. Tiger's Eye is an absolutely fantastic lower three chakra stimulant. Yet it has a very particular amazing feature of taking the solar plexus, the sacrum, and the root chakra and distinctly aligning them to a very efficient pattern, which of course is quite indicative of the primal aspects. The lower three chakras are very much related to Earth. So this can be considered a fantastic frequency to employ to put this kind of loving momentum into practical everyday action, which of course is indicative of the magic being real, quite simply. And as a subcapacitation agent for this right here will be a very heavily tourmalated quartz specimen. Almost completely black to the naked eye, but it indeed does have streaks of quartz in there for a distinct purpose. So quartz makes for a neutral amplification of other frequencies, particularly in a blade magnition sequence. Yet with the very high tourmalation of black tourmaline found in the structure provides a very fantastic intensive transmutation grounding output as well. Black tourmaline is quite a famous crystal in vogue these days for mitigating negativity and of course transmuting negativity into positivity by the same function of the transmutation ratio by firmly stimulating the earth stars for rapid reprocessing. So that aspect right there works fantastic with directly focusing the high purification grounding energy towards the lower three scaffolding so that the lower three is perpetually cleared and grounded, most importantly to ground and of course put the very high vibratory loving frequency into practical action for utilization in a day-to-day basis, which is the entire point. So that would be the apex band up here where the necklace shall be installed eventually above this lovely Eye of Horus Ankh ring, which I will, of course, discuss later. But the big prerogative is discussing the primary blade band scaffolding. So going in straight into the love-shine ratio, the primary blade band right here is the reason for the season, hence the aspect of honoring an archetypal designation through crystalline configuration is quite paramount here. So with rose quartz being an absolute fantastic pink ray high heart divine love stimulant, being a cornerstone of this frequency, of course, of conducive to divine love. So rose quartz is quite the famous and common, thank goodness, frequency in creation. And it, of course, is a very powerful love frequency emanation. Then going into rutilated quartz right here, which works as a massive accelerant of this frequency blade band with bands of rutile to further intensify. So quartz by itself already makes for a great, fantastic, neutral, ambient accelerant of other frequencies, such as impulses of intentions, things that for that matter. But the bands of rutile found in the quartz also make for its own massive intensification of quartz itself, which is very fantastic to employ in a very concentrated emanation subroutine, which intensifies the rose quartz, intensifies into kunzite. Kunzite is an absolutely fantastic high lithium-based pink gray crystal of extreme divine love soothing capacity. So with the aspect of lithium in there, it makes for a very soothing emanation for the nervous system as well as all the bodies, really, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, to be the quintessential, one of those quintessentials, I guess you could say, anti-anxiety frequencies of divine love that surpasses all rational understanding is the idea of the engineering here. With the kunzite employed, particularly in tandem with its other pink gray cousin of great prolific notoriety and utilization of rose quartz. Then from the kunzite goes into golden healer quartz. Golden healer quartz is a quintessential gold white light high heart stimulant of direct source attunement, which is outrageously advantageous, of course, to say out loud in a dissertation for a purpose. Having a very clean attunement to the source of creation obviously is very advantageous. I only laugh because it's almost satirical for me to try and keep a straight face while explaining that aspect. So with that very high intensive divine love resonance, we're amplified right to this point. Then, of course, a further direct attunement to gold white light source, heart of creation emanation, makes the Loveshine platform a truly astounding. As an absolute ironic joke, I say this with great satirical humor involved, of weaponized love on a stick, of that vibrational emanation in one contained circuit. So then it goes back into rose quartz, rutilated quartz, kunzite, as well as golden healer quartz until it completes its sequence. Most importantly, grounding off the transmutation scaffolding, which of course takes the excess radius momentum and grounds back into the transmutation scaffolding to firmly ground this loving vibration through the body, through the of course cellular structure, and most importantly into the earth, where it is very, very viable and practical and useful. So that's, of course, why I discussed the primary blade band figure 8 scaffolding first, which gives perspective once again as a containment field to govern the recirculation of the closed loop circuit into a perpetual, vaguely resembling figure 8 momentum by design. And next I'll be discussing the blade facing scene right here. So at the very apex of the core of this device would be that of Tibetan black quartz, which is a member of a holy trinity of master healers I employ quite religiously together in tandem. Tibetan black quartz is a very powerful crystal from Tibet, a very, very prolific spiritual locality in earth plane in recorded history. And the aspect of Tibetan black quartz is a very fantastic full light body stimulant that works very diligently to dismantle patterns of dis-ease stored in the chakra column, which of course translates to the nerve ganglia that manifests as a physical illness in that capacity. So the aspect of Tibetan black quartz being a very powerful Om toroidal field stimulant from the entire chakra column, particularly in the aspect of expanding the rooting earth stars as well as the stellar gateway higher chakras, is quite the fantastic toroidal field stimulant from top to bottom of Om alignment as a very powerful psychic purification protection agent of direct source attunement as well. And that's of course why eventually I will get to the other two members of the Holy Trinity up here, but at least that's why it's down there in a very prominent showcasing for distinct purpose. So speaking of showcasing for a distinct purpose, this absolutely stunning specimen of scoicite, this white ray crystal divinity, is on massive prominent display for a distinct purpose as well. Scoicite is a very fantastic white ray crystal of quintessential divinity. I employed it like so for years now, due to its extreme third eye, crown, and higher soul star, stellar gateway, and higher chakras back to one's godhead, as another quintessential divine alignment frequency that puts one in alignment with their highest divine witness self consciously for the physical avatar's interpretation of ego-mind identity integration. So that aspect makes for a quite the perfect supporting divine love shine frequency emanation with the extreme pink ray divine love concentration. This, of course, is very, very appropriate for bringing the heart-mind coherence of this extreme loving configuration into very obvious soothing overture, which is quite fabulous. So that, of course, is exactly why this beautiful, amazing specimen has been showcased in a large scale right here, because of its extreme divine alignment potency of, quite simply, very effective to keep one in their highest truth, despite the pressures of the world, to be encouraging to the inner resonance of one's timeless knowledge of who and what they really are in truth, and in a lot of ways. So then over here, on the back side, will be a lovely specimen of chrysoprase, which is a very fantastic, in my opinion, underrated green ray wonder healer of the mineral kingdom. Chrysoprase is a very fantastic water elemental, 3rd and 4th chakra stimulant that is very, very good for releasing judgments and aspects of that nature, as well as being quite the quintessential stone of crystal frequency of altruism and love out of service, particularly, which is very appropriate for the destination of this Loveshine platform. And it's quite the amazing forgiveness frequency, like I mentioned, which is very, very nice, a nice complementary green ray terrestrial heart chakra transference to the intensive high heart pink radius by design. Then right here will be the classic famous turquoise, which is its own quite legendary crystal in applications of metaphysical purposes, or at least for quarter millennia. And the aspect of turquoise is a fantastic embodiment of the 5th chakra stimulation of combining the 4 terrestrial elements of earth, fire, water, and wind, which be considered the Lakota medicine wheel, into a very wholeness 5th chakra stimulation focus, which is its own very fantastic pranic stimulant of aligning one and encouraging one's highest truth to be anchored to the conscious self. So, of course, a very fantastic, beautiful, not so underrated stone for metaphysical purposes, I'd say. Then right here, before I discuss this section, I'll discuss the purpose of this white leather hood, like so, which shall be aesthetically installed like so eventually after this dissertation to kind of give it appearance like this. And the first thing I want to highlight right away is this is far more than aesthetic, but indeed a critical functional component of this lightblade talisman. So the aspect of the white ray, of course, is a diffusion of the 7 rays combined to be a very encompassing full spectrum of light for color therapy stimulation purposes, which also, of course, governs the energetic output of the entire device, as well as a way to protect the subtle crystals seen in here. But perhaps most importantly, it also serves to insulate the entire energy wavelength from this critical section so that there are less lateral energies leaking like so the energy is more focused through the primary blade band as well as the apex band for energetic efficiency continuity. So it's not losing energy this way laterally, so it's more efficient, focused, and condensed, and more coherently directing the current through the entirety of the apex band and primary blade band. And of course, once it is completed, it does have a very nice aesthetic feature, but I will always find it quite critical to highlight the intentional function is far more than just for looks, just like everything else on this entire construct. Then at the very top, above where the hood shall be installed, is that lovely brass ring, which is a very nice fire energy, combining copper and zinc smelted together to be a very much earthy fire energy, which is very nice. And most importantly in the metallurgy would also be the aspect of the archetypal sigils of antiquity that are quite famous of the Ankh, the key of life, as well as the Eye of Horus. Just to give a highlight before I discuss more about the lore, I just want to at least keep that notarized and cataloged before I continued on, because there still is a great deal more to discuss. Then what shall be under the hood after this video is concluded and installed is this of black tektite. Black tektite is a product of meteorite impacting sand, recording the cosmic jolt of heaven to earth in a very much a space glass. So with the vaporization impact of a meteorite hitting the sand, black tektite is the result. And black tektite is one of those quite essential frequencies in virtually every platform for a distinct purpose. Black tektite has a very powerful black ray Earth star stimulation, which is technically a grounding point into the Earth contact patch, but very fortuitously it has a space magic celestial connotation to raise vibrations from the scaffolding up to be a very powerful way to fortify the entire light body's acceleration and integrity. But yet, like I mentioned, from a very foundational standpoint, which is a very much an agent of tangible raising of vibrations, which could be considered magic. Then over here, to speak of raising vibrations through high intensity, this also would be fulgurite. Fulgurite is a product of lightning striking sand, vaporizing into its own silica resonance. So very cool. Lightning being wielded in a terminated construct goes a very long way due to the fact that it was also a well-utilized frequency of spiritual of antiquity for shamans and medicine people, whatnots, and magicians of all kinds of stripes. To resonate with the power of lightning is also to intensify the entire energy field to amplify prayers or intentions. That was a classic utilization as a spirit tool. And the aspect of having lightning force through this entire radius, of course, intensifies the entire pitch with full light body activation, that of lightning in a bottle, for a very appropriate ironic joke placement there, which intensifies the entire auric field scaffolding to a very high degree with lightning force quickness. Then right here will be a member of the Holy Trinity I mentioned earlier with the star argonite and the Tibetan black quartz and the seraphonite at the very apex. So star argonite is a fantastic calcium-based full light body stimulant that works very diligently, very gently and quickly to clear patterns of dis-ease, impeding a full healthy light body flow from the chakra column, which translates into the nerve ganglia into a physical disruption. So that aspect plays quite the critical role of constantly renewing and purifying and, of course, healing and clearing any densities, since it's a calcite derivative, that are stored in the field. And speaking of that, the third member of the Trinity, well concealed now by this lovely brass ring, will be that of seraphonite, seen in a rather prominent bead format seen right here. So seraphonite is a lovely green ray crystal named after the seraphim archangels, which, just like its other cousins mentioned previously, works very diligently to activate the entire chakra column and dismantle, once again, patterns of disease. Hence, they are a trifecta well utilized at this point in a very dynamic utilitarian healing function. So the aspect of seraphonite is quite the amazing green ray wonder of master healing frequencies in the mineral kingdom. And so those three together work very diligently to activate and illuminate and clear the entire energy field to its basically divine factory blueprint settings before imprintations and karmic ancestral onsets occur and the human condition takes hold, to essentially divide one from their divine nature. That's the big idea of this being a contingency of dramatic healing efficiency and potency. And so that would be most of the crystals discussed so far, except for the white selenite seen right here, as well as the kyanites adhere to both sides. Next, I'll be discussing the wooden core, which is that of Sedona oak, from a very special tree friend of mine who is always constantly grounded into Oak Creek, which is a waterway that goes through Sedona 24/7, so its tendrils are very abundant and never, of course, go without water, which is a very appropriate placement, as well as the fact that oak is a very pragmatically dense wood. So the atomical structure is very well woven to make a perfect carbon-based platform for the silica radius built around it. So the aspect of the wood is quite critical for actually being a further tangibilization of the energy of this wavelength by being a very successful carbon-based transference to the physical avatars, at least for now, to serve to further make the silica wavelength output more compatible for direct transferability to the carbon avatars for now, as a way to further make the magic real in a very efficient fashion, as well as it's being a fantastic wood of legend that's quite famous and has a great amount of lore, which I will omit because there's already much to talk about in this 20-something minutes. But that's the aspect of why the wooden core from Sedona of oak is quite crucial for this design as well, as a very, good progression. And the white selenite seen right here is oftentimes saved for last due to this feature. So selenite by itself is a very fantastic 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stone back to one's godhead in a very clean, efficient fashion that works to essentially clear debris between one's highest self and one's conscious self, which by itself makes for a very, very advantageous frequency disposition for the spiritual aspirant. But the aspect also with that high frequency clearing of debris also brings a high frequency induction of transmutation of clearing stagnancies in the auric field from top to bottom through divine invocation transmutation, which is quite fantastic. But here's where it always truly shines, which takes me about 21 minutes in this video to start discussing right now. So this entire crystalline apparatus discussed thus far in this 21 minutes, running through the termination sequence of the primary wire, of course, goes through the selenite frequency for this critical feature. Selenite takes an entire crystal collective. It works to purify all of the crystals in ignition sequence. It works to also amplify all crystals in ignition sequence. But perhaps always most importantly, it also brings equilibrium and harmony to the entire crystalline collective pitch that has now become the Loveshine talisman for this dissertation. So it's always quite the critical triumphant trifecta in its own right to discuss in very well notarized concept. Then, affixed to the selenite itself is something named kyanite. So kyanites, for that matter, are the most rapid transfers in the mineral kingdom absolute possible. So for this next part of the dissertation discussing the 4 spectrums of kyanite installed shall be my very whimsical fast penmanship to do my best to illustrate its rapid rerouting, rebuffering capacity at literally the speed of quantum light. So the aspect of black kyanite makes the most rapid transfer through the root chakra into the earth stars, into the earth absolute quick as possible at a very, very high ratio, which also serves as another surge protector to ensure the contact patch of this wavelength is getting to earth for the most rapid reprocessing possible. Also, another critical agent to tangibilize magic or vibratory invocation or quantum fluctuations into reality. Then over here would be orange kyanites, being very supportive for rapid transfers of the sacrum's highest capacity to the highest level. That, of course, is very, very encouraging to one's creative, natural dharmic acceleration template. Then over here would be green kyanite. Green kyanite is the most rapid heart chakra transfer in the mineral kingdom at a very high ratio as well. Then over here will be blue kyanite. Blue kyanite is a very fantastic third eye stimulant that works very diligently to mitigate cross interference between the left and right hemispheres at this, once again, the speed of quantum light. So that's a very effective rapid transfer modality, and also with that feature has a distinct purpose of being another layer of etheric Teflon that is very, very discouraging for stagnant, lesser frequency energies not of one's divine template to maintain in the field by constantly rebuffering and rerouting at such a quick rate that stagnant energies have a very difficult time maintaining in the transmutation frequency. So of course also the kyanites with this entire Loveshine spectrum also make a very high yield transfer case of this closed loop circuit to themselves obviously, and those in their family line, those under their jurisdiction, anyone they meet. Those things of course make the kyanites very, very transferable with the Loveshine frequency to all entanglements of known and unknown variables basically. And that actually would be it. Well, this would be, of course, a rather clandestine, small, all things considered, based on its complexity and power output wavelength, lightblade talisman of the Loveshine spectrum once again. Well, 1,000 blessings, and may the force be with us all.